to talk NBA out with you. I'm
Here we
sure.
go. We're live right now. Sorry, guys. I pressed the live button. We were talking. Matt was joking around for a second, saying he may not play MLB tonight. I told him, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. He said, I contemplated. I wasn't not going to play. So just a little look inside of the conversations that we tend to have.
Yeah, I'm just tired today. That's all. I'm still going to play, but, it's never an awful idea to take a day out or a night off if you're feeling it. I mean, you don't have to play every single slate. It's important to remind ourselves of that.
I mean, I played less slates this year than I ever have, but just because of the craziness of the NBA, and sometimes you just don't have the energy for it. That being said, guys, the playoffs are here. Go to the website link below, buy a membership. We won't have write-ups for a couple of days until we get into bigger slates. There's no members-only video today. This one's free to the public. This is for everybody. But this is where you start getting angles, and this is what we kind of mentioned the other day when we did our drafters video with those guys, is there's a lot of DFS players who don't know sports, really. Like, they're good DFS players, great DFS players, but they don't sit around necessarily get the difference between the regular season and then the playoffs. Doesn't mean you're going to be right or wrong every day, but there's definitely a difference between the two sets of NBA, such as stars and scrubs. It ain't worked nearly as well in the postseason.
Yeah, because a lot of these scrubs aren't going to play.
Right? Like, you don't get value guys for 3,500 that go off for 30 anymore. Sometimes these guys get you like 4.
Right, because the stars are going to play like big minutes. The starters, not the stars.
Agreed. So let's talk about this first game, although the majority of your attention will probably go to the latter one for good reasons. Boston's going to be big chalk. That should be obvious to everybody. The problem with the first game is, like, the Pacers are like legit have injuries. Now we find out that Karis LeVert's going to miss a couple of weeks. So, I mean, likely the guy's just done for the year. Brogdon hasn't played in many a hot minute. He's questionable. Aaron Holiday is questionable. It's possible you want to load up on TJ McConnell. It's possible TJ McConnell's not even in place. Sabonis is questionable. Turner's out. I don't really care to spend a lot of time on the Pacers because I can't speak about them with any kind of confidence right now. Doug McDermott might be a cheap guy that's in play. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot depends on who's in or out. I mean, if sabonis plays, I expect him to play a ton of minutes and be heavily involved.
Heavily.
It's very hard to speak on them because we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how healthy Sabonis is. If he's questionable before a playoff game, 3 hours before, he's legit not 100%. However, as you just said, if he plays today, man, like, this is not like, oh, we'll keep him for game 7. There is no game 7. You got to win these games.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is game 7.
Yeah, okay. Let's just talk about Charlotte. And again, the vast majority of my attention is going to go to the second game. So there isn't a lot for me to touch on in this first one. As far as the Hornets go, they are now healthy. I mean, healthy. So there is nobody on their squad today that's a must. The cheap guys like Wanamaker and Martin could legit be DNPs. Malik Monk is not an awful play at 3,300. We really don't know what his role will be today either, as we've never seen this established Hornets team in the playoffs. Washington and Bridges and all these guys are kind of priced out from, weeks of having not a full roster. I think Zeller could play good minutes tonight. That's far from a guarantee. So if I were to play anybody from the Hornets, I would go with Scary Terry, who has shown that the moment's not too big for him, but he is far from a priority.
Yeah, I'm with you all around. I mean, they're healthy. Other teams aren't, and other teams have more viable players. That's all it comes down to.
Right? So you got to play somebody from this game, and there's going to be somebody on Indiana that you're going to want in your squad more than likely. But I don't have much from the Hornets.
I see Cody Zeller getting a bunch of love.
Maybe. I mean, I could see where they would need a big guy. It doesn't mean Biyombo's not going to play also, though, right?
For sure.
I don't know. I'm a Cody Zeller fan. He played a lot of minutes the last 2 games. I don't think he's a lock to play good minutes today. And I got a center for a lot less in the next game that I like more.
Okay, I get that. Like you did say, though, you need to play someone from this game.
Yeah, I think there'll be a Pacers guy in play, but they could all of a sudden, if Brogdon and Sabonis and everybody plays, there's nobody on that team I love.
Agreed.
All right, so my center of choice today, call it a gut call, call it whatever you want, is going to be Robin Lopez of the Washington Wizards. For me, in a game like this, there's no time to mess around with Alex Len. You're going to want your veteran guy in there. I fully expect a grizzled veteran like Robin Lopez to play at least 16 minutes today, maybe upwards in some of these closer to 20-minute games, kind of like the last game against Charlotte where they were very motivated to win. He's basically the minimum at 3,100. He is my center of choice today and my way to get the more desirable players personally. Could be wrong. Maybe Alex Len's great all of a sudden, but this is the guy that I like for cap space today.
I like that call a lot, man. I think it really, really works. I don't think like you need to get that much different either and stuff like this. Like I like that call a lot.
Yeah, I don't think he's unowned either. Like I know I saw him on like Awesemo projected for double-digit ownership, just barely double digit. So, I'm not the only one that's going to be playing Robin Lopez. It's a 2-game slate, so everybody gets a little attention. But he's the minimum, and he's an experienced player, right? Like what is he like? 400 years old? Like he's been here
For sure.
All right. I think the big question from the Washington Wizards is, what do you do with Russell Westbrook, who is now 12-4? Beal is playing, not fully healthy. This is a playoff game, so you're going to get the best of the Boston defense. What do you think about Westbrook today? Because your build without him and with him are obviously going to be significantly different.
I like to build without him more because of what we talked about with no scrubs. Like, there's a lot of good mid-tier pieces into the playoffs. I think that's the way to go. I think Westbrook will probably be over-owned today. I like Boston to win this game because I think they're going to do everything they can to just – have Smart harass Westbrook all game. I like to build without him more. It's not the regular season anymore. That's all it comes down to.
My thoughts on Russell Westbrook, who, again, has not been a monster playoff performer in his career. He's definitely aggressive and assertive. He won't be scared of the situation, but it's the playoffs. Just let my boy Giannis build a little bit of a wall. You're not getting these easy assists like you do in the regular season. I think Westbrook is going to skate into like 55, 60 points today, which is a nice DFS score, but that doesn't pay you off handsomely at 12-4.
No, I mean, I think that Kemba, Smart, Fournier, and Tatum are all better plays than Westbrook at their prices. I want all of them.
I agree. I made the cover for this video already, and it's Kemba Walker.
I want all of them, to be honest. Kemba is one of my favorites as well.
So, Kemba is – if I had to pick one Boston guy, and I'm playing more than one, just to be perfectly clear with you guys right now, it would be Kemba Walker.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a big question for me is, what about Pritchard?
With Kemba and Smart both pulling, I don't know what his role is in this game. I'm not interested at 4,300 personally.
I mean, I just imagine he'll still be the backup point guard.
Maybe, but if Kemba plays 38 minutes and Smart plays 38 minutes, there's just not enough time on the court for him necessarily.
That's fair. They are going to play guys off the bench, though. It'll be cut down, but you're still going to need some value. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
If you asked me to bet on Peyton Pritchard for 20 plus or single digits, I would personally bet on single digits.
Fair enough.
So it doesn't mean I'm right. I've never seen this before. I've never seen Pritchard play in the playoffs. I've never seen what their rotation is going to be like. Just my guess.
This is exactly why I don't like to build with Westbrook, though.
Agreed. I think Westbrook will very likely be the highest scoring guy on the slate, but that price tag is insane.
I think that McConnell is going to be a guy I like from Indiana no matter what, because I think he has a role regardless. Like the guard position, once you get all those guys in from Boston, is weak. So, I mean.
Here's my Boston question for you. You mentioned the big four with Fournier, Smart, Walker, Tatum. Who's the first one out of the rotation for you? Like if you could only play three of them, who are you kicking out?
Be the first one out for me, but
I agree.
I see no reason why not to play all four, though.
I agree, and I agree. I think Fournier is the first guy out for me. I think you see a ton of two-man basketball with Kemba and Tatum with their best two players offensively. And then I'm completely with your point that Westbrook's probably going to play 40 minutes today. And so I think Smart is going to be out there trying to blanket him the whole time. And Westbrook will turn it over a lot. So I think Smart is primed for at least 2 or 3 steals today. Just by, purely being out on the court a ton. He's going to run into a couple of rebounds and a couple of assists. I got Fournier fourth, but I don't think Fournier is a bad play. I just have him fourth of the Boston guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the problem is there just aren't that many guys in the slate I like. So, if you're not playing Fournier, who you playing at small forward?
All right, so the build for you appears to be these 4, which, again, I like all of them. I mean, the Boston guys are in the best spot. Washington is not a defensive team. They are a pace-up team that plays poor defense. So all the Boston guys are going to play big minutes today, and they're all good looks. And I don't love Tristan Thompson at 4,800 because Robert Williams is back, but one of these centers could also have a big game.
This is also the type of slate, like, there aren't that many great plays. So, like, you might have to play, like, someone, your last spot in might be someone from Charlotte that's a little overpriced. But, like, on this slate, I think it's okay.
Oh, there's one other guy from Washington that I kind of like today. Rui. He's only 5K. They are going to have Smart all over Westbrook, as we've kind of alluded to. He's up to playing big minutes again. I mean, I think Rui could play 36, 37 minutes today as you hound your best players. And he's not Beal, he's not Westbrook, but I think you and I both agree he's by far their third best player.
For sure. Just hopefully the moment isn't too big for him. And he hasn't been great. But I get it. On this slate, I think he's definitely in play.
Yeah, I mean, if you go with this build right here and you're sitting there with 18K, you can play like a Rui Hachimura. And for you seem to be liking little TJ McConnell, who's a guy I could also see having a solid day right here, especially if Brogdon is out. If Brogdon is out, then it's Lock City.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
And then you get over here. This is where maybe I don't go with Rui. I like Rui, but when I like Rui, I say I expect about 25 points out of him. I don't think he's a must. And you don't really get a good compliment. I think Bertans is also in play at 4,200 because they're going to need, guys that they're going to play their best players.
The reason why I think you just play all four Boston guys is because you look at guard and forward after you've filled them in, and it's so unattractive. You're like, if you take one of those Boston guys out, you're going to have another spot to fill with one of these, bad plays.
Fair enough. No arguments here.
I don't even here, like, I'm not sure who I want to fill in with. Like, right? It's ugly.
Yeah, depending on who's in or out, McDermott might be a thing. He might not.
3 of these teams are very unappealing. I mean, there's 4 teams on the slate.
So this is why I like NBA playoffs the same way you like NBA or MLB baseball slates that are ugly. And most people don't know where to go. Like, I know that's one of your favorite things. It's kind of why I like the NBA playoffs is it's not as easy as the regular season where you're like, 4 3K filler point guards and Russell Westbrook, easy peasy, let's do it.
So, all right, in this build, who would be your priority? Would you take McConnell out? Is Rui a priority over McConnell? Or I guess you're just going to wait and see what happens with Indiana?
Yeah, it's so hard to answer without the Indiana guys. If Brogdon plays, I assume they can't he's on a 20 minutes limit today and they're going to have to play him, which will lead into McConnell. If Brogdon is out, then TJ McConnell becomes a priority for me. With no Karis LeVert, like we saw McConnell the other day against Milwaukee pay 45 minutes when LeVert and Brogdon were out.
I think he's going to play I think he's going to play big minutes regardless.
Yeah, I mean they got a ton of guys that are questionable too. So he's going to play no matter what. We can't speak about Indy with great conviction until we find out about a bunch of these dudes, which is the hardest part about the slate. It's why we waited a little while to do this one today. They also have Aaron Holiday, who hasn't played in a couple games, who's one of their backcourt players. You got Edmund Sumner, who plays in the backcourt, who's still questionable right now. I mean, I think there's going to be value on Indy. I don't know who, though.
Yeah, I am with you. I think Westbrook's going to be so chalky, don't you?
I think he gets a good amount of love. The flip side of that is the thing that you mentioned that,
yeah, who you play?
There's no value. So I think enough people could jump off him.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
If you were let's just say Indy is missing some people though. And let's say we got Robin Lopez, Tatum, Smart, Kemba Walker. There is the ability to take Kemba out and go with a Fournier instead. It's a little bit cheaper. It's not what I want to do. But let's just say they're missing a bunch of dudes still for Indiana. Maybe they are. You got Justin Holiday, which, again, is not a look that I'm really interested in, but it is at your disposal.
Yeah, even in this build, though, it's hard to get to him.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Because it's not a slate where we've got, a plethora of other 3K guys to plug in.
Well, here's one for you. You take Tatum out.
I don't think you can play Westbrook and Tatum.
Yeah, it's going to be darn difficult. And I have no interest in Beal. He's just not 100%. I mean, he flat out came out and said it.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're not using Beal here.
But you got Kemba, Smart, Fournier, Russell Westbrook. Now maybe also you could play like a Rui right here. And then you kind of see where the lineup goes from here. Oh, ooh, man, that would be nice to have McConnell if Brogdon was out right there. But for all we know, Brogdon tries to play today. Bertans and McConnell.
Yeah, I feel like this is I get why you like NBA slate and playoffs. Of course, I get it. I don't feel like this slate is like the perfect one for it, though.
No, I don't like 2-game slates either.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because it's just, I don't know, as like you talked about, like the general public and they don't know where to go in the playoffs. Well, it's a lot easier when there's so much less spots to go to.
Agreed, and it's so hard to talk about Indiana because they legit have 3 or 4 guys that are questionable and just lost one of their best players.
I just reserved some contests for NBA and I'm withdrawing them all right now. I can't even deal with
it. Once again, guys, if Brogdon is out, McConnell is lock city, though. I mean, I'm talking 40 minutes of a guy who's a really, really good DFS player. Like, if Brogdon is out, he is one of my first guys to enter. Like, priority above Kemba, priority above Smart. I mean, he was like one of the first guys in my lineup because McConnell puts up DFS points in a hurry. And with no Brogdon and no LeVert, I mean, I'm serious. If this game's competitive, 40 to 45 minutes for sure.
I think it's competitive too. I mean,
Charlotte faded hard the last week or two.
Yeah. Like, I feel like Indiana wins this game. I don't even care who plays.
Well, I will disagree.
Crazy, but that's kind of how I feel.
If Sabonis and Brogdon are out.
Wow, really?
No, if they were out, I'd be like, I don't know about that.
I kind of expect at least one of them to play. Like we've talked about. I mean, this is make it or break it right now. If they're questionable at this point, I mean they're going to play, personally.
No arguments with you. You need these games, right? I mean, so I don't know. I think agreements here for us. I will probably play Tatum over Westbrook. Going to be difficult to play both of them. The Boston guys are priorities. They're also going to be chalk because it's kind of an obvious priority, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is the priority.
Yeah, it makes way too much sense to not use them.
You have to use them. I mean, you can't not use the Boston guys here.
I think the only way you get away from Boston is if you're game stacking Indiana, Charlotte, and you just have a feeling that Boston, Washington just is lopsided one way or the other.
Yes, like Boston rolls because like it's different. These guys are going to play like if it's a 20-point game, they're playing. But if playoff games can get real ugly sometimes, like that's not the craziest way to play it. I mean, it happens, and the first game goes to like double OT. I mean. Yeah, it is like that's why it's a 2-game slate. It makes it a little interesting in that regard, but nothing I want to like put my money on.
Sure, I won a GPP last year in the playoffs. Game stacking Toronto and Boston. It was last year, right? Not the year before.
I can't remember.
I'm like 99% sure it was last year, but game stacking that one. Completely fading the last game, which I want to say was like Nuggets Clippers, if my memory serves me correctly. Please, I'm old and my memory doesn't work as well as it should. And Boston, Toronto was either like OT or like just legit down to the last second, and the Clippers Nuggets game busted. So like, I expect these games to be close, but it doesn't mean they're gonna be.
Yeah, like I could easily see Boston specifically. I could see it like rolling here. Like I know, I won't be shocked if Washington wins, but if one of these teams is going to roll, it would be Boston in my mind.
Sure, and like let's just say Sabonis plays. Let's say Sabonis plays and Brogdon is out. So like you go with like a Sabonis, McConnell build to start. You bring over these Charlotte guys. We talked about Scary Terry. Then you take a leap and a guess with maybe a Bridges or a Washington. Maybe in this format you play Zeller. And then you throw in like a Bob Williams or something like that. Maybe Bob Williams just goes off.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, especially if you're looking at a game script like we talked about where the game gets out of hand, he probably gets extra run in that scenario.
So it's far from the optimal build, but you don't need like to move heaven and earth for this to win. What you need is you just need like, or maybe I can't picture Washington rolling, but like maybe Boston just sucks today.
Yeah, I mean,
Beal's hot.
The game.
It could happen. It's not the craziest thing that's ever happened. In Charlotte, Indiana is, legit 120 to 119, and Boston or Washington wins by 40, and just one game can't make a 3. So I expect all the attention to go to Boston. If that game busts, everybody from Charlotte, they don't even need to be great. They just need to not bust.
Yeah, I mean, that is an easy path. Because like I said, it's you just play the Boston guys. Everyone's going to see that because it's so obvious. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate where your head's at all. I mean, maybe Boston, like if you're telling yourself that story, like Boston's been a perennial like upper seed playoff team for years, on the kind of cusp of being in the finals. Now they're on the cusp of being in like the Eastern Conference Finals, excuse me. Now they're injured. They're in the play-in game. Like they ain't making a serious run. We know that. They know that. Maybe they just packed it in. And like this is a big game for Washington. Beal and Westbrook, like these guys are itching to be in the playoffs. Like I'm not saying that this is likely because, like I said, I think Boston has more of a chance to roll than any other team on the slate. But like that's not insane to think either.
No, I mean, with the way the 3-point shot has changed the NBA, like it's not insane to think like Westbrook's not a great 3-point shooter, but let's just say he makes a couple and Beal gets rolling, and then Bertans comes in and all of a sudden just hits 5, and you're like, Jesus, what's going on? Rui's hitting his threes. Meanwhile, Tatum and Kemba are 2 of 18 from 3-point range. Smart's a classic 0 of 8. It happens.
In NBA games all the time it happens. I mean, again, you don't expect it in one of these scenarios, and more than likely it's a close game. But like on the flip side, what if that happens and Boston's missing their shots? Like, I mean, yeah, exactly.
It can happen. And all the Charlotte guys are going to be really low owned.
Yeah.
With the exception of maybe Zeller. But like, people are not using Scary Terry today.
No one's spending any money, any of their real salary on Charlotte guys.
No, like, what do you think Rozier ownership is in GPPs? 15% maybe?
Like, if that, which, 15 on a 2-game slate is low.
Yeah, I mean, 15 is low on a 2-game slate, and those are just people trying to be different. They know it's not the best play on paper. Devontae Graham. I think people have seen Rozier play in the playoffs well enough. He gets just, enough love for that. But, like no one's using Devontae Graham today.
No.
I'm not using Devontae Graham today. I'm just trying to make devil's advocate arguments.
Those guys will be used as, like, fill-in pieces for the last guy in.
Right? Miles Bridges finished the season hot despite the Hornets playing like garbage.
Yeah, I mean, you could do worse.
Indiana's defense down the stretch was god-awful. So, they've been missing Sumner for a week. Turner hasn't been in there. They can't stop anybody. So, I don't know. If you're trying to get weird with it, load up in Charlotte, Indiana, and just hope for a Washington-Boston blowout.
Yeah, and like what if Boston-Washington is just a normal game, but Charlotte-Indiana goes like triple OT? Like when you have 2-game slates, it does open up like the real variance of like, one of the games blowing up for randomly or one of the games like doing like, I don't know. It is fun to talk about if nothing else.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. The optimal build is load up on Boston, but you don't have to beat everybody. This is a point you make on baseball all the time. Like you're not trying to beat 13 other stacks. I'm only trying to beat these 2 other stacks. And yeah, I know the Rockies suck. I just need them to score 8 runs today and these other teams not to have a good day, which can happen all the time.
Like it's likely that, GPP winning lineups tonight have, a bunch of Celtics, but it's going to be so hard to get there with Celtics because everyone's going to have them.
Agreed. So I don't know. That's the devil's advocate talk. It's not the quote unquote optimal play, but it's also not insane. I mean, the ownership discrepancy on this one is going to be real. Boston is the smartest play, but the smartest play doesn't always win.
I mean, yeah, I've told you I've been having a lot of success on these like late MLB slates recently, and a lot of it's the ownership of Like last night, Seattle was like real chalky, where the Indians weren't popular at all. Like big time ownership discrepancy, like you'll see here. I like it more in baseball, but it applies here as well.
Yeah, it specifically applies to smaller NBA slates too, and 2 games is as small as they get.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, guys, good luck tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.